can hear me. Can you give me some thumb up just to indicate that, or some reactions just to indicate that you do hear me and you can also see what I'm sharing? So my name is Zunisani Ntimbani, and I'll be the one facilitating the session. So today we will try to address or to deal with learning unit 8 to 11. So learning unit 8, which is our first learning unit, deals with interpersonal communication and various concepts that you find in learning unit 8. And the first concept that we are dealing with is the self-image, which is explained as follows: is the personal subjective perception of oneself, including mental, physical, and emotional traits built over time. And it acts as a cognitive filter that dictates confidence, behavior, and emotionally regulation in social situation. So a positive self-image promotes open communication, whereas a negative self-image often leads to defensive or avoidant communication. So you will realize that, hence we are talking about interpersonal communication, that self-image play a very important role, because if you have a proper self-image, you are more likely to have a proper interpersonal communication and relationship. But if you have a negative self-image, the way you see yourself, so which means you will also approach communication with other people without the confidence to engage with other people. And moving forward, we have the concept called a self-fulfilling prophecy. And with the self-fulfilling prophecy, it refers to, by the very act of making a prophecy, by enhancing the chances of that prophecy coming true. So, for example, let's assume that you believe that you will fail. You are more likely to not study and you are going to fail. But if you believe that you will pass, which means you will encourage yourself to start studying and do anything possible to assist you to pass. And then at the end, you are more likely to pass. So that's where the issue of self-fulfilling prophecy comes in. So this one, in terms of interpersonal communication, if we want to join it in, let's assume you believe that you will have, you are confident, you are beautiful, and you are a good speaker, then you are more likely to speak with people properly. And then moving forward, we have cultural and gender differences. And cultural and gender differences shape behavior, communication, and societal roles through socialized norms rather than just a biological factor. So cultures differ in terms of high or low context communication and individualism, collectivism. So these things, based on where you come from and maybe your gender, it might affect you when you have to engage in interpersonal communication, because if you are a low culture, you'll need to behave in a certain way. And if you are a high culture, you must behave also in a certain way. So gender roles are more distinctive in high motivation culture like Japan, Italy, and more overlapping in lower motivational ones like Scandinavians. And if your parents praise you for your attribute, you may have developed a natural pride in yourself. And in a situation, if your mother, father, or sibling called you a fat or clumsy, this criticism may still haunt you even today. So these are some of the things that if the way you grow up and the way in wherever you come from, they treat you as this person, these things will influence how your perception about yourself and how you handle yourself and your confidence. For example, there is that saying that the boys don't cry. So you find some men, even though when they are feeling painfully, they can't cry, and some end up hanging themselves and so forth. And maybe girls cannot do meds or cannot do heavy works and so forth. So all these things, they affect you in a certain way and how you interact with people, even at workplace. So, ladies and gentlemen, hence we have spoken about the self-image that it can be either negative or positive, and this affects you. There are ways you can use to improve your self-image. Since this is not like a one thing that remains the same and it can change. So, for example, this sentence should help you to see areas where people may be contributing to a negative self-image. Like, for example, we have spoken about where the parents tell someone that they are fat or so forth. So you can work on that. Like if indeed you're fat, you can try to work on your weight and make sure that your self-image is proper. And they will also help you to reach out to others who may suffer from a self-esteem. So reaching out is an interpersonal competence skill, a way of getting on better other people. So, for example, you can try to get positive things about yourself and change negative things about yourself. That will be another way of improving your self-image. So, which means you need to start by evaluating, like now, how do you feel? How is the self-image that you have? And if you realize that this is the negative one, it means you need to come up with some positive things that can contribute to your self-image to be positive, since this image also contribute when you interact with other people. So people who are confident, they are more likely to have effective interpersonal communication skills with other people. And people who have a negative one, they are more likely to be shy and not likely to engage with other people. So, ladies and gentlemen, another concept that we must deal with while we are dealing with the interpersonal communication is a self-disclosure. And this self-disclosure is the intentional process of revealing personal information, thoughts, feelings, experiences, and secrets to another person to build intimacy, trust, and connection. And it acts as a foundation for a relationship, moving from superficial topics to deeper, more intimate topics over time. Key aspects include reciprocity and appropriateness, vulnerability. So these are some of the things that you can do or share such information to ensure that someone understands you in a deeper way, and it will make them to also share some information about themselves. So letting other people know about the kind of person you are is called self-disclosure. So the responses people give to your disclosure is called a feedback. So obviously, you will not tell everyone everything about yourself, but some degree of self-disclosure is important for others to feel that they can trust you. So the truth is that we do not always get the balance right between revealing and hiding ourselves. So, for example, if you meet a new friend, so for that friend to be comfortable, you need to tell them maybe more about yourself, who you are, what you believe in, and so forth, so that even themselves they can be willing to share or comfortable to share the same information. We also have different types of self-disclosure. Like the first one, it's called open communicator. We do this when you're open communicator. For an example of occasion when I am a trusting and friendly communicator. So which means in this case, you will be sharing more information because you are trusting and you are a friendly communicator. And then another situation, it's actually this come from something called Juari window, just to indicate how people can share information and the kind of feedback that they can get. The other one is called a blind communicator. When I think I was a bit overconfident, and throw my weight around. So this will be the example of the blind communicator. When somebody is overconfident will be the blind communicator. And we also have a hidden communicator. So when you feel like you are two-faced, I was bit two-faced. This will be an example of when somebody is a hidden communicator. And we also have example of the last one, the close communicator, the person who has a poor self-image, caused me to be non-communicative because that person didn't share anything. So even the other person couldn't share something because of what they received from the other one. So I think now we need to realize with these things of self disclosure, the more you share, the more people are trusting you and they are willing to share more. But if you share little, even the other person will share little. And if you don't share, which means even the other party cannot share any information. So another aspect is assertiveness. And assertiveness is the ability to communicate your needs, boundaries, and opinions clearly and directly, honestly, while respecting the rights and feeling of others. So in a nutshell, it means assertiveness. A friend call you to say, accompany me to go somewhere, but you are telling the friend without insulting them that you can't accompany them. Maybe you're busy or you're not willing to accompany them without insulting them or not being aggressive. I know this assertiveness, the opposite is aggressiveness. So aggressiveness, it means if you respond, you will respond in a rude manner and maybe the feelings of the friend will be affected. But in an assertive manner, you just politely tell someone that, unfortunately, I cannot accompany you. Maybe I'm busy with one, two, and three without hurting their feelings. So it is a balanced approach that is neither passive nor aggressive, fostering confidence, better relationship, and reduce stress. And assertiveness is not the same as aggressiveness. Standing up for your right is not the same as infringing on the rights of others. So don't be scared to politely tell someone that maybe you don't want to do something or you have a different view about something. So that would be the honesty that is required in a communication. I think I saw somebody raising their hand. I think if you have a question for now, just write it on the chat section. And the other aspect is empathy. And with empathy refers to the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes and feel their pain and their joy. So you are empathetic when you encourage a friend to cry or rage as a way of working through their feelings. You are also empathetic when you say something comforting, but keep your distance. And empathy takes into consideration the patience, or when you are doing this, you must be patient. It requires someone to be patient. The last one is the interview or the interview situation. So an interview is a structural conversation where an interviewer is asked questions to obtain information, opinion, or to evaluate a candidate, usually for a job or for a research purpose. So it is a two-way communication process, allowing both parties to exchange information, assess suitability for a role, and make informed decisions. Your answer to this question leads us to the first aspect of interviews, namely the fact that an interview is an intentional face-to-face communication with a preconceived objectives. So in other words, unlike a chance meeting, the participants in an interview know why they are meeting and they also know the goals and what the interviewee is looking forward to achieve at the end, or also the one who's interviewing the interviewer knows what they are looking for. So this is something that is planned and both parties know what they have to achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all from Learning Unit 8. Unless someone has a question, But what maybe I would like to say further, it's you need to pay attention to these aspects that I discussed here, because at the workplace you'll have to engage in interpersonal relationship, and your self-image must be positive so that you can have effective communication with other people. So maybe I will take this time and just open up for questions. Just tell me your understanding, what you had so far, just before I proceed. I'll give you maybe 3 minutes. And then maybe if there is something I need to go back and explain better, I can go back and do that. All right, I've seen hands before. I thought I will find some chats or something. You can share your your comment via the chat sections and I'll reply. Or just give me a small feedback, what you have heard so far, so I can proceed. You know, sometimes you feel like loud and clear, okay? You feel like you're saying something while you are saying nothing. Okay, it's fine. Even if you just join, the session is being recorded, so you didn't really miss anything. You'll just watch from the beginning, what we have discussed. We go back again. Now, unfortunately, I have the issue of time. If you were talking about one aspect, topic will be fine. My only concern is going back from the first aspect to where I am now. Okay. So the first aspect we discussed was the self-image, which is like the perception you have about yourself, about your physical, mental, and emotional. And it can change. It was built over time, what you experience, what people told you, and so forth. So for you to succeed in interpersonal communication, you must have a positive self-image because it promotes open communication. And the negative one, it leads to defensive or avoiding communication. So for you to succeed in interpersonal communication at workplace, a positive self-image is required. Remember, we said it's not static, it changes over time and so forth. And we also have a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, for example, if you believe that you're a bad communicator, you are more likely not to take some steps to learn about uh, how to be a good communicator and so forth. So you are more likely to have bad communication with others because what you believe in, according to self-prophecy, you are more likely to act towards enhancing or making sure that you achieve what you believe in. If you believe that you are going to fail, you are more likely not to study and you will fail. But if you believe you will pass, you will start studying and you're more likely to pass. That is maybe in a nutshell the self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's explained as by refers to the by the very act of making a prophecy, you are enhancing the chances of that prophecy to coming true or to happen. The other thing is cultural and gender differences that we act or communicate in a certain way because of the cultures and also the gender that we are. But if in certain culture, a woman cannot speak while looking at someone, so such things will affect when you have to engage in interpersonal communication because now you will act based on what you have learned from your culture and the roles that you do as gender that you are. Like, for example, boys shouldn't cry, but in reality, boys should cry to take whatever they're feeling out. And girls cannot do maths. You believe that you can't do different things because in your culture, you were taught that you need to do simple things. So all those things will have impact even when you communicate with other people, that the way you are told that you need to communicate as maybe a woman or man from that culture, it might have impact because now we are in 50-50 at workplace. You believe that you are a man, maybe you must be above, then we'll have a problem. And a self-image, as I said, it's not static, it can be changed. So you just need to make sure you take some steps to change it, to evaluate your self-image. And if you feel like some things need to be fixed, you just need to work on your confidence, work on things that can improve your self-image and so forth. And make sure that your self-esteem is high, it's not low. Because a low self-esteem, which means your confidence will be low and you will have like a bad or negative interpersonal communication. The other aspect we dealt with is the self-disclosure. And as far as the self-disclosure is concerned, it's about the information you share with other people. So the more you share more information with people, and the more they are more likely to be willing to share more information with you. And if you don't share, the other people won't be willing to share. So in most of the time, if you have to talk with people, you need to start engaging with them, telling them who you are, and they will be willing to tell you who they are, and what they do, and so forth. So there is a Jawari window which differentiate how people share information and the kind of feedback you get. Like for example, we have the open communicator, and so which means if you meet or you are the open communicator, you'll make someone like to be trusting and friendly communicator. If you are a trusting and friendly, even the other person will be trusting and friendly communicator to you. But if you meet a blind communicator, like who's overconfident and so forth, even you are more likely to respond in the same way, throwing out your weight. And then in a case where you meet a hidden communicator, so where you share, but you are careful, even the other person will share the information while they are being careful. But the bad one is a close communicator, which is a poor self-image, which causes you to be a non-communicative. Even you, if the other person doesn't talk, you won't talk, or if you don't talk, even the person who need to respond to you won't respond. We have spoken about assertiveness, and assertiveness we said is the ability to communicate your needs, boundaries, and opinion clearly, directly, and honestly, while respecting the rights and feeling of others. So, in other words, you can respond to the next person without hurting their feelings, but just stating that, for example, you are not comfortable with something, but not infringing on their rights or hating them. So we also have empathy, and empathy refers to the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes and feel their pain and their joy. And one example of being empathetic, you are empathetic when you encourage a friend to cry or arrange as a way of working through their feelings. You are also empathetic when you say something comforting but keep your distance. Empathy takes patience. It's like you need to be patient or when you are being empathetic or when you're practicing being the issue of being empathy. The last one is the interview situation where we said it's where people meet structured conversation where interviewer asks questions and the interview is expected to respond. And or to evaluate the candidate usual for a job or for research. So it's a two-way communications because there will be a chance even where the interview will be given a chance to ask questions and the interviewer will respond to those questions. And the other things we highlighted is both parties know the goal, why they are part of the interview, and they know that they have to prepare and what they need to achieve at the end of the interview. I think that was all from this learning unit. All these aspects are part of interpersonal communication at workplace. Um, so I'm not sure that one of blind and did I address that? It was blind and white and hidden communicate. So the blind one, which means you overconfident, which means you overshare. And then the hidden communicator, you share, but you are not sharing too much. You share, but you're not sharing too much. That's why they use I was a bit two-faced. It's like you were honest and on some point you were holding back. So ladies and gentlemen, let's move to learning unit 9. And the learning unit 9 is about teams or groups. And the assumption is that as a person now, you are a member of several groups and teams already, either part of the family, church, and so forth, or with a group of friends. So any group of 3 or more members with a common goal is a team. It could be your family, your child's school committee, a neighborhood watch, a political party, a book club, and a charity or a community organization. You already know that while a teamwork often solve problems, every team has to deal with badly behaved members or conflict between members. So these are some of the challenges that you encounter when you're working with groups or teams. So one important aspect we must start with, we can start with the definition of a team. So a team is a group of 2 or more people who work together interdependently to achieve a common goal or a specific objective. So unlike a simple collection of individual team members rely on one another, share mutual accountability for their results, and often possesses complementary skills that create synergy. So there are advantages and disadvantages. So I might not share all, but I'll just share a few advantages of working in small groups or teams. So small groups often benefits like increased resources, like when you're many, which means we have more hands, we can come with many ideas and diverse perspective, which means we can bring also different perspective. The other thing is the synergy and the shared decision making, which means we can make decision sometimes very fast because we are men, we can come with so many ideas very fast, which can improve task efficiency and quality. But as far as the disadvantage of small groups or teams include potential conflict. So always in a group you encounter conflict, and sometimes to make decision is time consuming because you need all team members to contribute. And then we also have the issue of social loafing and the risk of poor decision making due to a groupthink. So these are some of the disadvantages that you encounter in a group setups. And then moving forward, um, there is the issue of group leadership. You know, in a group, you must have a leader, the one that if you are doing meetings should be the one facilitating at the meeting. And sometimes this person must decide about the meetings when you should meet and other decisions that you need to take. So leadership in a group involves guiding, motivating, and facilitating members to achieve common goals through various styles such as directive, participative, or supportive, depending on the situation. So effective leaders, whether appointed or emerging, balanced, task-oriented, and relationship, relationship, team cohesion functions, and influential group dynamics. They're important. And as a leader, you remember we have like the 3 different styles of leadership. We have the autocratic, where the leader is autocratic, not being democratic, and the other one is democratic, where you allow other people to participate. And there is the last one where you just allow members to behave the way they want. And sometimes you can include these 3 styles when there is a need. during a meeting. For example, sometimes one things to move fast, you can decide to be autocratic, but you see that today we have time, anyone can participate, then you can be that democratic leader. And then we also have the aspect of Teams meetings. And a Teams meeting is a schedules gathering aimed at aligning team members, sharing information, solving problems, and making decisions. So effective meetings requires a clear agenda and defined roles, who's going to be the facilitator and assign acting items with deadlines. So these are some of the things that for meeting to work, which means a leader must plan what should be in the agenda. And part of the meeting, maybe we can decide to which role like different members of the team are they going to play. So key practices include starting on time, encouraging participation, and following up. So these are some of the things that normally happening during the meetings. So, and there will be someone who takes the minutes so that we know what we have done in the meeting, so that in future when we meet, we know what we did in the previous meetings and what we need to do, which role was assigned to this, which responsibility was given to various members. So we have the issue of problem solving and decision making. Hence, we said that part of being a member of a team or group, you will have to encounter some problems. So effective group problem solving and decision making involve a structured 5-step process. Like for example, if you want to solve the problem, which means you need to start by defining the problem, analyzing it, generating solutions, and evaluating options, then implement the chosen plan. So key techniques like brainstorming and nominal group technique ensure diverse inputs. Like if we allow people to say, now let's come up with ideas, it means it will allow the members to share their views and we can brainstorm all of us and will allow various points or various ideas from different members. So widely consensus of voting helps reach decisions. So also this one can be done like to make sure that all of us we are fine. We can vote for certain decisions to be taken. So we also have strategies for conflict resolutions, and I think there are five. The first one is collaborating. And when you collaborate, you are finding a win-win solution that fully satisfies all parties, ideal for high-stakes situation where a long-term relationship is crucial. And the second one that you can use is compromising, whereby you are finding a mutual acceptable partial solution that partially satisfies everyone, often seen as a lose-lose or split the differences approach, useful for a quick resolution. And the third one is accommodating, which means one party yields to the other party to maintain harmony, useful when the issue matters more to the other person or to preserve the relationship. The fourth one, which is competing, an assertive win-lose approach, appropriate only in emergencies or when unpopular decisions are necessary. And the last one, which is avoiding diplomatically sidestepping the issue, best used when the conflict is trivial or when emotions are too high. Then moving forward, I think this brings us to the end of learning unit 9. I wonder if there is something I need to share or repeat or respond to. You can share on the chat section just for me to see or to get your understanding. I'll take just 2 or 3 minutes and giving you a chance to share your understanding on the chat section. Are you still there, guys? And did you understand about teams and groups, uh, the leadership, various roles in the groups, decision making, a way of strategies for resolving conflicts? Okay, now if you are saying that you are fine, we'll move to the next learning unit, which will be learning unit 10. And learning unit 10 deals with public speaking or presentation. And public speaking involves effectively delivering a message through confident body language, clear vocal delivery, and audience engagement rather than aiming for perfection. So a key techniques include maintaining eye contact, using expressive gestures and varied vocal volume, and structuring content simple. So effective preparation reduces nerves and improves connections. So normally, or it is a well-known fact that public speaking is very scary. All of us, we are scared of public speaking. But if we prepare and we follow the tips that we'll find in this module, we expect that to be easy and simple. So another issue as far as public speaking is concerned, you need to pay attention to audience. You need to familiarize yourself with the audience. So audience in public speaking prefer engaging, relatable, and well-organized content, valuing speakers who demonstrates empathy, authenticity, and clear communication. They appreciate storytelling, purposeful movements, vocal variety, humor, and minimal effective use of visual aids. So tailoring your message to their specific needs and interests is key to connection. So successful public speakers command thousands of friends in fees. So it's important for you to have this skill of public speaking. Like at your workplace, there will be time where you need to present whatever project or whatever you were busy with to fellow colleagues. So while we're speaking about audience, it is also important to capture your audience attentions when you are doing a public speaking. For example, think about what you have written, realize that there are hundreds and thousands of people out there who wish exactly the same thing. And there are hungry audience out there longing for a speaker who can, for example, tell stories and say something differently and speaking audible and make the audience laugh and provide insights, and also sticking to the time limit and make the time fly. So while you are doing your presentation, you need to consider all these aspects, that your presentation must tell a story. You need to say something differently. You need to make sure that you are audible enough, and sometimes make your audience laugh. And you can also provide an insights and make sure that you stick to the time limit and make time fly. For example, they must enjoy listening to you to the point where they can't even check their time. So, for example, when you do or you want to go and do public speaking, you need to organize your presentation. So, one of the way of doing your presentation, make sure that your presentation have an outline, which must have a title. For example, you need to consider what will be the introduction. How will you draw your audience in? Write down two or three keywords that will remind you of what you want to say. And you can also come up with 3 or 4 life lessons that you would like to pass on. What are they? Write 2 or 3 keywords that will remind you of what you want to say. And support each lesson with an anecdote rather than 2 or 3 keywords that will remind you of what you want to say. And think about how you will write a conclusion because the last part of your outline must be a conclusion. Write down 2 or 3 keywords that will remind you of what you want to say as far as your conclusion is concerned. So there's also a tips like that you can consider when you need to give speeches about complex material. For example, a technique you can use in the situation is called speaking to your report or paper using this technique. So you can distribute a copy of the report or document to each participant. And you don't have to read word by word. For example, you can summarize what is written there. Draw your listeners' attention to certain key points and insights, only those key points. And you can put these points in a chart or in a certain way that can be seen and explanatory and explain this in a light manner and add humor, example, anecdotes if possible so that your people can somehow relax. And you must do the hard work for your audience. In other ways, be prepared and know your material. And you can help your audience to read and understand, like for example, by using tables and graphs to explain maybe numbers. That will be the way of helping your audience to read and understand. So another thing that can make you to be successful in terms of public speaking or giving speeches is the issue of rehearsing when delivering speeches. So rehearsing and delivering of speeches effective involve consistent out loud practice to build muscle memory and reduce filler weights and manage time. So the key strategies include a record rehearsal using minimal notes card, practicing with visual aids, and also conducting a full dress rehearsal to boost confidence and refine pacing and ensure a smooth, engaging delivery. So these are some of the tips that you can use to make sure that you rehearse properly in order to give the best uh, speeches or do public speaking effectively. For example, there was a Miles Monroe who was one of the best when it comes to public speaking. So he gave us a sort of a guide that we can use when we do public speaking. So this guy, according to his guide or the outline that he's using, he says you need to make sure that you grab the attention. For example, why is there's a poor mother in a prison away from a child? And then describe the need. The mother cannot spend time with the child because of time-consuming cleaning duties. And the third aspect is satisfaction. There's a product to solve this problem. And the other point is visualization, which you need to think of funny things a mother and a child could do together. And the action, for example, buy this product now, what need to be done now? So this is a sequence that is given by Monroe, and you can also use this sequence when plan your public speaking or as an outline for your public speaking. Mm, I'm not sure if there's a question or a comment. Also, this one bring us to Learning Unit 10. Also, this one bring us to Learning Unit 10. So maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes just to give you an opportunity to ask questions or comment if there is something I need to clarify or you didn't get that properly. Okay, so I don't see any comment. I'll assume that you understood, or you will watch the recording if you miss something. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to Learning Unit 11. So, Learning Unit 11, it has two sections. It has the intercultural communication section, which covers defining of culture, intercultural communication, history of intercultural communication, different cultures in organization, and the importance of multicultural communication in the organization. And it also covers the importance elements of multicultural communication and also steps of overcoming cultural communication challenges in an organization. And the other side, which it's a digital communication, covers the following. Now, which is the business ethics section, which covers the following: the importance of business ethics, ethical principles, and ethical behaviors, the public and private persona, your digital footprint, and how to improve your digital footprint, rules and guidelines for netiquette, weights and legal responsibilities. So let's start with the first section. So culture is defined as the ongoing negotiation of learned and pattern belief, attitude, value, behaviors, and traditions that are shared by a group of people. And cultural changes can be traced and analyzed to better understand why our society is the way it is. So this is one of the definition that, in a nutshell, culture is a way of doing things, the way we dress, the way we do things as one people who share traditions, one language, and so forth. For example, there are these aspects that goes along with culture, beliefs, attitude, values, and traditions. The first one is a belief. A belief is something that one accepts as true and real. It is a firmly held opinion. For example, a core belief are the assumptions that we can make about ourselves that do not really have any weight to them, but we strongly believe them. And the other aspect is the attitude. Attitudes are settled ways of thinking or feeling about something. For example, the attitude object can be a person, a place, a thing, ideology, or an event. And the last or the other aspect is the values. And values are ideas about what is good, right, fair, and just. For example, accountability is being responsible and answerable to our behaviors. And in doing so, we create a sense of trust from others. The last aspect is traditions. So traditions are transmissions of customs or belief from one generation to another, or the fact of being passed on in this way. So a common example include holidays or practical but social meaning includes like lawyers' weeks or military office space. But the idea also been applied to social norms such as greetings. So culture also involve the psychological aspect of your expectations of the communication context, from the choice of words to how you communicate to how you acknowledge understanding with a nod or glance to intentionally externally interference. All aspects of communication are influenced by culture. And then moving forward, we have ethnocentrism. So ethnocentrism is the evaluation of other culture according to preconceptions originating in the standard and customs of one's own culture. So ethnocentrism is a universal human behavior, it can be a problem for many reasons. First, it causes us to believe that cultures differing from our own are deviant. So deviant means tending to be different or develop in a different direction. It prevents us from learning about other cultures, which also prevents us from wanting to communicate with people of different ethnicities or from different cultures. So which means we must be careful of this ethnocentrism, where we believe that other cultures, it's either are small or different from our culture. We need to believe that probably all cultures are equally. So another problem or another issue is stereotypes. And these stereotypes can be defined as generalizations about a group of people that oversimplifies their culture. In other words, stereotype is a set of generalization about a group of people or a social category which many may be corrected or may be correct or you'll be incorrect. Mostly these statements are exaggerated. For example, all accountants do not know how to write a memo. So it's possible that some accountants do know how to write a memo. For example, maybe believing that maybe coloreds are violent. There are coloreds who are not violent. So we should treat people as individuals, not as a group. So the definition also points out that culture is learned, which account for the importance of socializing institutions like family, school, peers, and the media. And moving forward, sometimes you'll have a problem with stereotypes. One, stereotypes are socially constructed. Like, for example, stereotypes are created by people. These is not natural things. So that's what we need to note. And it needs to assist us that maybe to know that they may not be true. Stereotypes are arbitrary ways of categorizing individual. This means that they are based on random choice or person whom rather than any reason or system. So it's a person who decide to say, this is how I feel about certain people and spread that information and become a stereotype. No social group is homogeneous. Stereotypes might not accurately represent the characteristics of a particular member of that group. Stereotypes are biased. Yes, for someone to believe in a certain way about a group of people, it doesn't mean that that person was not biased. It's more likely to be biased. That person just decided to take a negative attribute of that group, while that group can still have some positive attributes. So another issue is prejudice and discrimination, as well as shaping our belief. Our stereotypes drive social judgment. So prejudice and discrimination refer to our feeling or attributes about a group and its members based on the group, class, or category they belong to, rather than basing any action on individual merit. And prejudice is commonly associated with stereotype. Our evaluations of others reflects what we believe to be true about them. So a simple distinctions between prejudice and discrimination is that prejudice is to do with attitude and is based on perceptual inaccuracies, while discrimination has to do with actions or behaviors towards other people based on prejudice view. So prejudice involve a negative preconceived judgment or opinion that guide and conduct or social behavior and stems from stereotypes. For an example, imagine two people walking into the room for a job interview. You are asked to interview both, and having read the previous section, we rely on stereotype when encountering people or culture with which we have had a little contact with. So maybe based on the fact that somebody come from certain culture, you may deem them not to be fit for a job based on that preconceived. So that's why we need to always be aware and pay attention to these stereotypes and make sure that we don't encounter the problems with regard to the stereotypes and treat people as individuals and give people a chance and let's treat them as individual rather than a group or a culture where they come from. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward to intercultural communication. So intercultural communication studies often focus on how cultural groups differ from one another and how we can communicate effectively in this situation. In simple terms, intercultural communication describes communication between at least two people who are coming from different culture or cultures, and their cultures are have to be differently. So we also have the aspect of intercultural communication. Intracultural communication is a meaning of exchange between members of the same social group or groups with a similar cultural properties. So intercultural communication common describe communication between at least two people who are from the same culture or have a cultural similar backgrounds. So a conversation between two American citizens who both grew up on the farms of Georgia will be intracultural communication. They will essentially have the same background and cultural orientation. And such groups may be distinguishable from the mainstream society based on race, ethnicity, tradition, values, religions, faith, faith, economic level, gender, age, or other traits and abilities. These intracultural interaction affect your intrapersonal communication as it shapes your frame of reference and perception about the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward to multicultural communication. So multicultural communication refers to the set that contains several cultural or ethnic groups. So people live alongside uh, one another, but each cultural groups, uh, just give me a moment, just I'm not sure if SM want to say something. I see SM there, or maybe it's a mistake or something. No, if there is nothing, then I will continue with the multicultural communication. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're still on multicultural communication. I said it refers to the society that contains several cultural or ethnic groups. So, for example, people live alongside one another, but each cultural group does not necessarily have engaging interaction with each other. For example, in multicultural neighborhood, people may frequent ethnic grocery stores and restaurants without really interacting with their neighbors from the other countries. So the multicultural communication concentrate focuses on the dynamics of communication across cultures. It explores not only what happens when people of two different cultures meet, but also what happens when people from variety of cultures and ethnicities come together in one organization, community, or country. So many people consider multicultural communication to be solely about race, when in fact multiculturalism means many cultures. This term include inter alia, people of diverse ages group, people of different races, and even people with different political view. And the other aspect is international communications. So yes, we do this aspect, but this one it's not really about cultures and so forth. but this is speak about a government or country to country. Like if the South African diplomats are talking with the American diplomats, that'll be an example of them international communication. So international communication involve one country to another or one government to another in a different country. So that is an example of international communication. So we have also have the sixth imperative of intercultural communication. Like for example, the technology imperative, which like these days, because of technology, we live in a small village and people from various places can find themselves talking over Facebook or social media or using technology. And also with the first one being technology, increase information about people and culture. It's still influenced by technology that we still, people receive more information about different cultures and people and increase contact with people who are different from us. This it happens most when we go to workplace. You will realize that you're working with people from various cultures and increase contact with people who are similar to us, who can provide communities of support. And the other one, identity, culture, and technology. And the last one, differentiation, access to communication, to communication technology. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll stop there as far as the first section is concerned. Let's move forward to digital communication or the ethics side. So as far as the digital communication and ethics, digital communication is the process of exchanging informations with the help of using the digital means. So for example, in the workplace, digitally employee communication speed up the flow of information and enhance team collaboration with members dispersed across different geographical locations. Various digital communication channels can be used in the workplace, such as the emails, text messages, social media platform, video conferencing tools, collaborative applications, and etc. However, with the easy that digital tools and applications create for collaborations across spatial boundaries comes various ethical concerns that need to be considered. Therefore, the following sections deal with the digital communication ethics in the workplace. I believe that you're familiar with ethics. Ethics is about what we consider to be the rules that govern like the society and what we consider to be right or wrong. So this isn't like a societal standard. That's something, it can also be legal, but ethically be it can be unethically. So it's what we consider to be right or wrong in our society. That's what I would say in a nutshell. So, and these ethics, they differ as like the cultures where we come from and so forth. So part of those ethics, it includes the morals. And morals are a set of rules or codes conduct on which society is based. Certain moral elements are universal, such as law forbidding homicide and the basic duties of doing good and furthering the well-being of others. So with moral saving as the underpinning of society, there are 4 points that that you need to remember. Like the first one, moral rules are important. In general, morals are rules that help society function in a civilized ways. And morality consists of universal rules. They apply to everyone, everywhere, and are recognized by everyone as being necessary. Morals are objective. They do not consider personal preferences. They are clear guidelines as to what is right and what is wrong, according to the particular culture of the individual, group, or business. And morality affect other people. Morality involves considering the well-being of others as reflected by the golden rules. Do unto others what you want them to do unto you. And then we have the issue of integrity and honesty. And remember this one, the moral and integrity and honesty, they extend from the ethics because these are some of the aspects that are continuing the discussion of uh, ethics. So as far as the integrity is concerned, integrity is to have integrity is to be honest and sincere. Integrity is defined as adhering to the moral code in a daily decision making. When people and business possess integrity, it means they can be trusted. And then on the other hand, companies that lack this quality and mislead customers with inferior products or false advertising will suffer the consequences. That company is more likely to close. And the last one, or the other one, which is honesty. Honesty is an important function in the accounting profession because it allows investors to trust the content that they receive regarding the organization in which they can like invest. Business managers depend on honesty accounting to run their companies without fear of bias reporting from their subordinates or other staff members. And honesty in accounting is the primary characteristics of the profession that allow financial decision makers to make appropriate judgment regarding any given situation. So you need to realize how important are these aspects to your profession and also to yourself in general. It's fine. I can share the slides here on Teams later, but at the same time, we do put slides with the class at the end, but I can also share on the on Teams. And the other aspect is the character. Which like ethic is not just how we think and act, it's also about character. So character drives what we do when no one is looking. So each person can be built, change, or even destroy his or her character. We can build our character through the way we live by thinking good thoughts and performing good acts. And similarly, bad thoughts and behaviors can destroy our character. A person with a character has a high morals and will act morally in all situations by choice, not force. A person with character will honor his or her commitment. A character pertains to organization as well. A company with high character is worthy of trust and respect, acts honestly, and stand by its promise. Ladies and gentlemen, the other part that we must deal with is now focusing on business ethics. But remember, we said ethics are what is considered to be right or wrong. But then now, if we move to the business ethics, which means these are what a certain company wants its organization or people in a certain profession to behave in a certain way. So those one will be business ethics. Hence, business ethics are defined as follows. It's a form of applied ethics or professional ethics that examine ethical principle and moral or ethical problem that arise in a business environment. It applies to all aspects of business conduct and is relevant to the conduct of individuals and the entire organization. So in addition, many employers have a corporate code of ethics. Even if your employer does not, it goes without saying that there are laws governing how the company can and cannot conduct a business or how certain people in a certain profession must behave. So, for example, there are some challenges sometimes in business ethics or that must be considered as organization ethics. Like, for example, a company cannot do fraud and the issue of sustainability. For example, maybe sustaining the environment, what the company can contribute to do that. And the issue of diversity. These are some of the business ethics and exploitation that companies should not exploit people and so forth. So these are some of the things that you find within the business ethics. While I'm still on that, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to move your attention to the private and public persona. So there's an issue of persona. You will see when you read, I'll just try to summarize it. So the word persona comes from mask, and actually it's a theory that came up with the other guy called Gossman, if I'm not mistaken. So this guy believed that when we live, we wear like a different mask. Like for example, when you're alone, you wear a certain mask, and when you go to the public, you go and present yourself in a certain way and wear another mask. So when we talk about a public mask, it means it's a self that you present to the public, which is different to the self that the way you behave when you are alone without anyone who can see you. So that's where this issue come in, that we have like a different selves. We wear a different mask and we do different type of presentation. When you are alone, you'll find that you are relaxed and so forth. But when you're in a public space, maybe you look professional, presentable, confident, and so forth. And probably when you're in your private space, that's a different story. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward to the digital footprint. Digital footprint as well, I will just summarize it in a nutshell. It's about the footprint that you leave digitally based on what you share on your social media, what you type when on Google, on various digital platforms. It forms your digital footprint. And some organizations, when they hire you, they sometimes check your digital footprint. They will tell us you that maybe share your Facebook something or your LinkedIn page, LinkedIn or some links to access your social space so that they can see your digital footprint. So it's important for you to have a positive digital footprint. And if you don't have the positive one, there are ways you can improve to improve your digital footprint. Like for example, you can Google yourself, and this is the best way to see what potential employer or contact will see first if they decide to search for you. For example, if you see that your posts are not fine and so forth, maybe try to edit them or try to post something positive or positive photos or videos that are appropriate. For example, if you posted alcohol or drugs on your Facebook, whatever, you can remove that so that one day if they say share maybe your link to your Facebook page, that is not what the company will see. Or if you have a certain belief about certain people, you make sure that you shy away from that or remove such post. You can also monitor and control sharing of controversial content. Ask a friend and family who have posted controversial content to take it down or untag you if they have tagged you. You can also set up professional accounts on one or more platforms, such as LinkedIn. This will increase the chances of your employer clients seeing your professional site, and it's an inexpensive way to build your professional network. And the last one, keep it positive with future posts and contribution. So make sure in future when you post things that are positive, because the digital footprint can make employees not to hire you. So since we operate online these days, we have rules or an etiquette that we use when we are online. So these kind of rules, we need to remember the human on the other side of electronic communication and adhere to the same standards of behavior online that you follow in real life. Know where you are in a cyberspace. Respect other people's time and bandwidth, and make yourself look good online. Share expert knowledge. Keep flame wars under control. Respect other people's privacy and don't abuse your power. Be forgiving of other people's mistakes. So these are some of the things you can do as the rules of communicating online or when you communicate online. Just remember what we do in online, it's normally what we do with normal life, like respecting other people and loving each other. So we also have the issue of texting. You know, the issue of texting is just the issue of using text to write and so forth. So, and text as a business writer, you need to know how to write. And you can use tips for effective texting as follows. For example, avoid contacting people too frequently because sometimes it can tend to be boring or tending to harassment. Sometimes don't be too much on your phone sometimes when you're texting. Just unplug yourself occasionally or when it's necessary. And you don't have to text and drive. When you drive, focus on driving. And when you stop, you can text. Uh, I think the last aspect that we must address is weights and legal responsibilities. So as a communication student, you need to be aware that your weights sometimes can make you to go in account legally. And we can see these days other people who maybe post something regarding other people or defamation statements. They are taken to court to go in account. So we need to be careful about what we write even online, that whatever we write, we make sure that we still abiding by law or behave in a legal way, because what we write sometimes can put us into danger or we'll have to be called to court for defamation. I think today there's a court case between Julius Malema and Musa Kaula after Musa Kaula wrote that Malema is going through a divorce process. So that's why we need to be careful about what we say, even if it's on the social space. So that's how we need to know. That's always we need to take responsibility and be aware that what we write sometimes can put ourselves or our company into danger. Some people can sue us and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our session. And I think I'll take this time just to welcome questions, comment, or suggestions. And in the meantime, I'll also try to share the slide that someone requested. Oh, no, I think I wanted to share the slides, but I assume my colleague didn't give me the rights to. Share because I'm free to share. I'm struggling to share the slides. So what I will do, the slides, my colleague will upload the slides with the recording for this session. So just check the slides tomorrow under the session for learning unit 8 to 11. So I just want to wish you all the best and any material we can read with more example on the topics discussed. I don't understand the question. What I will tell you, yes, you can use the slides. You can also read on your own all the learning units that you need to cover for that assessment number 2. Autocoring is a must, and I believe it will be a closed book, so you may need to study and prepare for the assessment. Yeah, the portfolio, we can talk about portfolio now. It's still coming. Let's pass assessment number 2. Then after we can talk about the portfolio. Yes, we'll also have the sessions to prepare you for the portfolio, so you don't have to panic or worry. I'm sorry about failing to say to send the slides here on Teams. I did try my best. Unfortunate, I'm not managing. Yeah, okay, it's all good. Okay, thank you guys. Allow me to dismiss this session and also wishing you all the best. I'm looking forward to see you in the next session. Um, just make sure you prepare for assessment number 2. And I believe that if you prepare, you will succeed. All the best. Humphrey, you were raising up the hand. I think according to the settings, you can only write on the chat section. Just before I leave, you can ask. Okay.